the idea of utilizing the message of the resurrection of Jesus Christ in the application of the science that it's possible for me to arrive at conclusion that are best demonstrated through Jesus in the New Testament are why I'm here. Now, I'm going to use, and I've been speaking for a long time, in fact, since the beginning of time, in the idea that the science of my mind will always be in a particular demonstration of what appears to be the necessity for a conversion of the wellness of the physicalness of me in regard to being whole and perfect as I was created. Now, what we're going to do, and I have a little Sunday edition. This is the Sunday morning edition of Christian Science, which is fundamentally the idea of the teacher's manual of A Course in Miracles. What it really says is, and what all Jesus really says in the New Testament, is you're going to have to use the power of your mind to arrive at conclusions that will allow for allowances of changes to occur immediately in the idea of a repetition that is different than the one that you just experienced, but yet have already experienced if Jesus is proper in his idea of resurrection. Okay? Now, what I'll do real quickly is I'll read a little bit of it to you because I love the idea that you're using the science of your mind to admit that the application of the change in you, in your body formulation, okay, using Jesus now in the science of the New Testament, is not particularly concerned about how you have been in the idea, this is directly now from Jesus in the science, is not particularly concerned in the hologram of light that you intend to be in the New Testament, how Jesus actually underwent an experience of disappearance. All right. Now, I'm going to have to utilize the idea, and Jesus reminds you of this consistently in the New Testament, that it's going to have to come from my mind very simply because it's a disappearance of my body formulation. And that's how I really teach healing. It's the curiosity about, I'm teaching, most of you are familiar with Christian Science. You've even heard of Mary Baker. I mean, you've heard of the science of the mind, and there's lots of churches now around here. In fact, I'm going to send this video of the science of my mind concerning Christian Science, all right, as a demonstration of the purity of Christianity, which is actually obvious in the idea that the science of my mind is where the requirement for the alteration of itself occurs. Now, I'm going to read just a little bit about from the Sunday edition of the idea of Mary Baker in regard to how she came through revelation. Okay, and now, there's really no argument with Christian. You know, the problem I have with Christian, I'm going to talk about a little bit here, because what Mary Baker finally says about the capacity of instantaneous healing that can occur without regard to the formulation of what you formerly were in space-time are obviously why you go to church and call it Christian Science. And what you do is, and the reason people don't particularly want to be conformed to you is you're teaching the science of the power of your mind to heal. Now, actually, Mary Baker, guys, you might as well hear it, well, she'll say that it's the power of my mind to heal. Nobody really quarrels with that. What they quarrel with is the instantaneous availability of Jesus in his disappearance and reappearance within a physical body. Okay? Now, maybe I can stir up a little attention in the Course with Christian Science. Now, as long as I can remember, I might as well tell you that I am a Christian Scientist that did not find approval among what we call Protestants, Congregationalists, who didn't want to take the idea that they could not use their mind to heal. Now, there's nowhere that Jesus, all right, in Christian Science says you're going to do anything but be well and perfect using your mind without regard to your physical body, and that's not going to make any difference. Now, so when somebody told me when I was back in the 30s, I'm an old guy in Christian Science and Mary Baker, people would refuse to go to the doctor for physical evidence of themselves because, well, I'm a Christian Scientist. That's not what Jesus taught in Christian Science. In Christian Science, Jesus teaches that the love of God is so important in an individual mind that a replication of the idea of the physicalness of you can demonstrate the wellness of you. I'll read just a little bit. Is this little science book of Christian Science full of the idea of the miracles, okay, that occur in the idea that suddenly there's a shift in consciousness? Yeah? Will I do it? Sure. I'll read you just a little bit. If I come into a Sunday school class, the idea of teaching a course in miracles, the idea of teaching the science of the mind of Jesus, which is fundamentally what Christianity is, okay, I would have to have somewhere the idea of the necessity for a physical experience, all right, that would involve the physical change of you, all right, not necessarily in the application of what was mental within my mind. Okay? Now, that's what I'm going to say about this. Okay? Am I all right? Okay. This is called Christian Science because it's what Mary Baker taught in the idea of a self-discovery, and that happened to me when I was dying and when I went through my last death experience, as many or all of you have done. And suddenly you discovered that the application of the remedy that you used physically made you well. Now, while you're willing to admit that the mind had to do with it, the idea that it's entirely mindful, if it's going to be real, is more difficult for you in the teaching of Jesus. Okay? Should we try it just for a minute? There. Okay? This is the idea of the science of your mind, to suddenly get a revision of how you look. A revision of how you look in this little Sunday school book about a course in the miracle of my mind that suddenly is demonstratable by what's happening with me. Listen with me. Listen with me and watch. And watch. Once came to me this heavenly conviction, a conviction antagonistic to the testimony of the physical senses. According to St. Paul, it was a gift of the grace of God given unto me by the effectual working of his power. It was the divine law of life and love unfolding to me the demonstrable fact that matter possesses neither sensation nor life, that human experiences show the falsity of all material things, and that immortal cravings, the price of learning love, establish the truism that the only sufferer is mortal mind, for the divine mind itself cannot suffer. I'm back with you just with the idea of beginning to point out to you in the science of the Christian idea, when you believe that you're sick or unable to cope with the mortal mind, you actually have nothing to do with reality at all. You're not a part of what reality is. This is the teaching of Jesus.